Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
We really focus in on the kids and making sure that they understand why they're in the hospital.
A vision for the future is realized with the opening of a new children's hospital.
We want to improve. We want to overhaul. That doesn't necessarily mean starting over.
Candidates for BESE District 6 tell LPB why they're running.
I'm very distressed by the nastiness. I'm very distressed by the inability of people to be civil.
Early voters having their say at the ballot box. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Moreau. We'll have much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, news today from the Supreme Court.
The High Court announcing today they will take up a Louisiana law that could leave the state with just one abortion clinic, a decision expected by the end of June.
Now, the Louisiana law is virtually identical to one in Texas that the Supreme Court struck down in 2016. It requires doctors to have admitting privileges to a nearby hospital. Now we'll look at other headlines making news across the state. Republican Ralph Abraham is now pumping his own money into his campaign to be governor as he struggles to keep up the spending pace to unseat Democrat John Bel Edwards. The latest finance reports show the third-term congressman from Alto in Richland Parish has loaned his campaign the money in the final stretch before the October 12th election. President Donald Trump has finally come out swinging in regards to the governor's race, urging GOP voters to oust Edwards. In tweets this week, Trump didn't pick among Edwards' main Republican challengers, but simply called on voters to take the Democrat Edwards out of office. A state agency has found 27 issues in an audit of the city of Shreveport's 2018 finances. The findings of the state auditor note the arrests of 4 city employees accused of using city money for their own gain. 3 were accused of using city resources worth $25,000 for work on private driveways. The audit also says the city was fined nearly $190,000 for the late filing of payroll taxes. Shreveport officials say they are working with the auditor to address any problems. The federal government has bought out an entire flood-prone neighborhood in Gonzales, and the people who live there have moved to higher ground. This was on Silverleaf Street in the Ascension Parish city. The street was carved out of a wetland and frequently flooded. The agency is buying the homes at pre-flood market value, and Restore Louisiana is offering to make up shortfalls in certain situations. The feds are also giving Plaquemines Parish a $4 million grant to improve its water infrastructure and help protect businesses from natural disasters. Most of that money will be directed at the Belle Chase Water Treatment Plant. It comes from a program designed to help pay for disaster relief and recovery from hurricanes and other natural disasters. Pink slips stunned 376 workers at a steel mill in Laplace, which shut down without warning. The governor suggested tariffs may have played a role in the closure. The Bayou Steel Group factory is the largest employer in St. John the Baptist Parish. The company says it will close by the end of November. More than 150 restaurants in the state have been cited for not telling customers they sold seafood imported and not from Louisiana. A new state law requires food businesses to post information about imported crawfish or shrimp on menus or on entrance signs. The health department found violations from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, in the Lake Charles area, and in Bossier City and Shreveport.
Also today, the governor released a new ad that will run the final week of the election. It's called Still John Bell, and its goal to remind voters of his first-term accomplishments.
And the state Republican Party also announced big news today. Monday night, the son of the president, Donald Trump Jr., will headline a GOP event in Lafayette. Both lead Republican candidates plan to be there. A staff at Our Lady of the Lake Children's Hospital officially blessed their brand new state-of-the-art building this morning in Baton Rouge. Tomorrow the doors open and patients will begin receiving care at the $230 million facility as the goal to create a place solely for children and their families becomes a reality. Because a hospital visit is rarely something to look forward to, extraordinary lengths have been taken to calm and comfort the children and families who arrive at Our Lady of the Lake's brand new freestanding children's hospital. It's evident in the color and in the sound that envelop the environment. The Lake commissioned acclaimed architect Christopher Janney to set the tone for the healing that doctors and hospital workers will strive to achieve.
By combining architecture and jazz, it's always allowed me to think of new ideas. So sometimes I try to make architecture more like music, sometimes I try to make music more like architecture. So coming up with these ideas that are really the sort of synthesis of the two disciplines are what intrigues me most. This is actually a group of works I've been doing for the last 30 years called Urban Musical Instruments. And this piece titled Harmonic Grove is the latest iteration.
Visitors enter beneath a canopy of blue and green and rose-colored stained glass, which casts colorful shadows. Louisiana swamp sounds chirp and croak from 24 integrated speakers. What makes the space truly unique, though, is that it's interactive. Anyone who presses or waves a hand to one of the inviting handprints located on support columns will trigger a series of melodic instruments and will even affect the lighting.
He's remoted in from Boston. His computer is looking at my screen here, and he's making changes in the software. One of the goals was to create a place of playful creativity where children of all ages can come and get a sense, even before they go into the building, that it's a playful, but it's a very creative place. And not only do the children come, but the children's parents. So it's really also a place, a plaza in front of the building where people can relax and, in a sense, play with the architecture.
Throughout the hospital, each floor is marked by its own color scheme and by wayfinding signage. Each floor has its own set of animal ambassadors. Sharon Westberry, manager of the Child Life Department, says the signage and sounds and visuals work in harmony with her job, which is to make the children feel that where they are is safe.
We really focus in on the kids and making sure that they understand why they're in the hospital, making sure that their anxiety is at a decreased, we don't want them to be afraid being here. We try to normalize the experience as best as possible, and we do a lot of teaching for kids, and that means just helping them through play understand what is going to happen to them while they're in the hospital.
It's a challenge, I would think, right?
Well, we get on a child's level, we get to know them, we get to understand who they are, and really just gain their trust. So that's a big part of what we do when working with kids, is really letting them know that we're a safe person, and we want them to trust us. We want to be able to go into the room and talk to them about upcoming procedures. For example, the doctor orders us an IV. So what is an IV? Some kids associate it with poison ivy, but we want to help them understand what that means and actually explaining through play the sequence of events leading up to the actual placement of the catheter under their skin. And so we play through that experience and we come up with a plan, a coping plan, and allowing the child, to understand what their role is, what the nurse's role is, and what my role is as the child life specialist, and even sometimes what the parent's role is as a support presence for their kids.
Dr. Trey Dunbar, president of Children's Health for Our Lady of the Lake, says what's been dreamt of by pediatric specialists and pediatricians for years is now a reality.
So having this facility is going to be huge for us to be able to expand what we've already been doing. So for example, we've been doing pediatric trauma at the main hospital. This gives us an opportunity to do trauma in a totally different way and expand and attest to being a trauma program on our own for pediatrics. Gives us an opportunity to be more innovative in how we provide care. One example of that is our St. Jude's floor.
A major part of the idea of the hospital is to keep kids close to their homes, so it more closely serves Metro Baton Rouge, the state, and the Gulf region. As an affiliate of St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Dunbar says it means immediate access to vital research for trauma or cancer services.
There aren't too many places that you can go if you're a child with a blood disorder or cancer and get care all in one floor. And that's what our third floor, our St. Jude's floor, allows us to do. Having a children's hospital, that's a destination for pediatric specialists or people who want to be professionally invested in pediatrics. So we've already had a lot of an uptick in our recruitment of subspecialists, for example, or pediatric nurses who want to take care of kids in a very innovative and new environment.
Also on the third floor is Bella's room, donated and funded by the Bowman Foundation following the death of their daughter.
This is a palliative care room, so children that are at end-of-life care will be placed in this room until it is time for them to pass away. And so it's a larger room. It's there to accommodate family, extended family, but the goal of this room is really to make it more of that feeling of home and just really be a larger space for families that are going through such a difficult time in their life.
There is also hospital history integrated into the 6-story structure easily visible from Interstate 10 in Baton Rouge. This outdoor pavilion and its stained glass windows are a throwback to the original Our Lady of the Lake Hospital built in downtown Baton Rouge in 1923. They were discovered in storage, hidden away for years after the hospital complex moved to Essen Lane in 1978.
This hospital is solely dedicated to caring for kids, and so we are really excited to have the opportunity to work with all staff and just understanding the unique needs of children and how children cope and how we can best help them to be successful during their hospital stay with us.
Medical teams have simulated the moving of patients this week, but it happens for real tomorrow. 50 children who've been in care at the lake will become the first patients treated in the new Children's Hospital as they officially open tomorrow. Could LSU football be a reason why we've seen a strong turnout of early voters at the polls? On election night in Tiger Stadium, the Tigers tangled the Florida Gators in what could be a matchup of unbeaten SEC heavyweights.
Regardless of why, voters turned out in droves on the first 2 days of early voting, and the Secretary of State's office tells us early voting remains steady leading up to the deadline. We hit the streets to talk to residents about their political engagement and if they plan to vote early.
I actually voted Monday around noon. I live in West Baton Rouge Parish, and it was very easy to do. I feel like people are engaged in their own camp and nobody's trying to work together to solve the problems at hand. And when they do, we need to see that as a good thing, as a positive thing for our country, for our parishes, for our states, whatever.
I am definitely going to vote. We pretty much know who's running, kind of know what's going on with the constitutional amendments, but we usually go to PAR, or one of those sites and just see what they have to say, about especially the amendments and sometimes the candidates, just an objective overview.
I voted yesterday.
Okay. Why did you decide to early vote?
Early voting is much more convenient for me than to have to take off of work to vote on the one day. And I think it's really important that we participate and do all vote. I do think it's really disheartening that it seems that politicians don't seem to be engaged with the civics that they need to know, and then of course definitely the general population isn't engaged with the civics they need to know, as in like what roles politicians have and what they can actually accomplish or the limits they have.
I'm very distressed by the nastiness. I'm very distressed by the inability of people to be civil to each other, because I think that we can disagree but be friends.
So why are you early voting?
Because there's a football game on the real voting day. I do feel like I know the people running. I think I wish I knew a little more about some of the amendments, so I'm going to have to read them when I get there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on a few things.
Why did you choose to early vote?
Because I just wanted to go in and get it done, I guess. And we went to the archives, and as we were walking in, somebody said, if you're over 65, looking at me, said they have a special room for you. And I thought, now what was the giveaway? So Anyway, we had to go through, long lines of people who were not over 65. We got in there and it didn't take but just a few minutes to vote.
Okay.
So that was easy. I recommend it. I'm unhappy with the national political situation. I'm unhappy with our local political situation. I guess my heart is still a conservative, but I'm voting liberally in a liberal Democratic side more and more.
Every little vote counts. Everybody don't get out and vote. It's just like voting for the wrong person. If you don't cast your vote and give your opinion, you're giving it to someone that don't need it. Everybody really need to get out and cast their vote, get things back straight in the U.S., really make America great again.
Remember, you can cast your early ballot until tomorrow at 6 p.m. You can go to lpb.org for a complete list of where you can early vote throughout the state.
Well, Cleo Fields is trying to regain the Senate District 14 seat he once held. His challenger, longtime lawmaker Pat Smith.
Fields continues to face questions about where he lives and his character. The veteran politicians faced off at the Press Club on Monday.
My domicile is 5347 Hollywood Street. It's been my domicile for 30-some years. Don't have any plans of changing it, will not change it. And if anybody had any doubt about where I'm domiciled, there is a mechanism. You can file a lawsuit. We had more candidates challenged across this state than ever before. I don't know why I wasn't challenged, because I was looking forward to the challenge because my domicile is 5347 Hollywood. Do I own other properties? Yes, the Constitution and the law of the state gives me the right to do that.
I think the article that was in the paper speaks to the issues that we brought forward on the residency and domicile. And I think the most important thing is that while the law provides you the opportunity to have a homestead exemption on a particular house and to be able to vote there, it's a loophole in the law. And I think it's important that when you do want to run for office, that you should live with the people that you want to represent.
Can you share with us today what you think your most significant action in that capacity has been in your career?
Most significant was working with the colleges and universities in my district. Before every legislative session, one of the things I did, I met with the president at Southern University and the president of LSU. And now Baton Rouge Community College is a part of the 14th Senatorial District as well. I've always considered the 14th District as the hub for higher education in this state.
I have a number of them, and I'm going to probably give you a couple of them. But one, while I heard Mr. Fields talk about the merger of Southern University and UNO, I stood the ground. And on the front page of the paper showed me holding the line with Jim Tucker not being able to bring that bill to the floor for a vote. So as the chair of the Black Caucus, that was something that I feel very proud about, that Southern University did not lose its status as the only HBCU system in the country. But I think my criminal justice bills as well would be very satisfying for individuals in the state of Louisiana, because it crosses the spectrum of how we've been able to deal with mass incarceration in our state.
Well, I think the question is how should voters look at a meeting I had with the governor as it relates to the FBI investigation? As it relates to it, I think they should look at it very carefully, because quite frankly, the voters have looked at it at least 3 times I've been on the ballot, and they have concluded that I was worthy of the opportunity to go back to the state Senate, and I thank them for that. But let's be very clear, my opponent takes a lot of shots at me all the time. You find me a man or a woman or a child who hasn't made a mistake, you just found somebody who hadn't done anything. Am I a perfect servant? No. I'm a public servant. Did I do anything illegal or wrong? Absolutely not.
Folks ask the question all the time, and Mr. Fields has an answer for that question. So it's up to the people to determine whether or not that is an answer they will accept or not accept.
District 14 includes LSU, Southern, the state capital, and low-income neighborhoods near the petrochemical plants.
The Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, or BESE, is responsible for the policies that could determine the success or failure of more than 720,000 public school children around the state. We sat down with all the candidates running for the seat in District 6 to hear what their plans are for fixing what many say is a broken education system. Ronnie Morris is the first to admit he was anything but a traditional college student.
I went back to school at 32, graduated at 37 with an engineering degree, and it was really a life-changing experience for me, and the sort of thing where something changes your life, you want to share it with other people.
Years later, he would teach math and physics, sparking his true passion for education.
I went back to LSU, and I founded an endowed scholarship for teachers, for students pursuing a career in education. And I've contributed to that endowment for the last 19 years. It's now the largest endowment in the state of Louisiana for students pursuing a career in education.
He also founded a nonprofit, We Produce Grads, promoting STEM education and projects at area schools. Morris says he's running for a seat at the state's education policymakers table to
work with the other board members to create effective policy that would include innovative approaches for STEM education. But mainly it's just about engaging kids. And you know, we're in the 21st century. You know, there's a lot of really creative approaches we can do to engage kids. My focus, if I'm elected, will be on early childhood education. I think we can do a better job identifying special needs early and addressing them timely. Secondly, I think we can do a better job preparing our kids for kindergarten. We need to provide opportunities for kids that may not have those opportunities to get their brain stimulated, you know, get them involved in programs where experts, you know, can help them with that brain stimulation and make sure they've got an equal chance at the starting line.
I have always had a call to service. I graduated from high school and went into the military where I served 4 years as a Navy SEAL. I was called into ministry when I was in college to work with young people as a youth pastor, and would just learn the importance of raising up our youth to be the next leaders and taxpayers and lawmakers of the next generation.
Greg Spears is a military veteran who also took a tour of duty in the classroom as a math teacher and football coach at Ponchatoula High School.
I just learned from the inside how to reach those kids and the struggles that they deal with and the struggles that our teachers deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I really feel like we need good people in those positions.
He says one of the main reasons he's running for a BESE seat is to replace and repeal what he believes is still Common Core.
It is one of the greatest detriments to our education system in Louisiana, and it has been for nearly a decade.
He says he will also tackle a number of other issues if elected.
Finding a suitable contract for a state superintendent, teacher evaluations, school accountability systems. I have my views and my opinions on all of these things and things I'd like to get done, but teacher attrition is a big one that I'd like to resolve. We're losing thousands of teachers every year. I think a big result of that stems from Common Core, which strips them of their creativity.
I originally decided to run around October of last year.
Sierra Hart is a community organizer and an 8th grade Louisiana history teacher who is hoping her experience in the classroom will change history, so to speak, helping lift Louisiana from the bottom of most educational categories.
I've engaged with a numerous amount of elected officials, and what I've learned is it doesn't matter how well you know how to write a policy. If your heart isn't with the people, then your skill set as far as policy writing or even being engaged with policy won't be as effective.
She says she decided she needed to help shape Louisiana's educational policy and help teachers like herself get the tools they need to help students in our state succeed.
So I may not be writing the policies, but the policies affect me every day. So I have a vast understanding of the policies across the board, and I'm hoping that with that, I'm able to express to people, like, even though I may not be a policy leader for the last 20 years, I'm in education every day, and I'm on the front lines every day.
She says a lot needs to be done to fix the state's broken system, and she's ready to get to work right away.
I'm appreciative of John White and his policies over the last 8 or so years, but I believe that going into a new gubernatorial term that we should have a new innovative leader. There are so many policies that have taken place that to me shows a slight removal or understanding of what's happening in the classroom.
And
I believe that we need to also increase the MFP formula. That way it's an every year increase and not just a convenient increase during an election cycle.
I am running to be a part of BESE because I'm a veteran educator, and I am not pleased with a lot of the educational reforms that have taken place over the last 10 years.
Dr. Vicki Tolliver-August says there's too much pressure on teachers and students because of high-stakes testing and what she calls a waste of money.
The current BESE board implemented policies and procedures to prohibit schools from popping up per se overnight, these private schools. It stipulated that the schools had to be in existence for 2 years with self-sufficient funding, meaning that parents were paying tuition prior to being allowed to participate in the Louisiana Scholarship Program, also known as the voucher system.
She says those schools haven't proven that they are more effective, but are basically taking valuable resources from already struggling Louisiana public schools, and it's something she would work to change immediately. Tolliver-August also believes it's time to look for a new superintendent.
I'm not sure why BESE cannot come to a consensus. If they cannot renew his contract, then they should have, in my opinion, start looking for a new state superintendent.
She says she would also work to stop the flood of charter schools in the state.
Far too many charter schools are expanding without actually showing, in terms of a school performance score, where they are much better than the local private schools. For the life of me, I can't understand why we are allowing a lot of these big industries to come in. A lot of charter schools are actually ran by charter management organizations from out of state. A lot of these individuals are funneling money into the BESE campaigns. And to me, that says that it's more about making money than providing our children with a quality education.
The candidate who wins the District 6 seat replaces Kathy Edmonston, who's running for a seat in the House of Representatives.
And that's our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. The upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many other programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're at.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.